Right. Hey everybody, it is time to do a testing video. Today we're testing Roy Mustang, that's right. And I have to say, unlike a certain other video that I did recently, a video surrounding a very specific character, Stern, third version of Stern. Sorry, Yanni. Jet lag. I have to say that while Stern, I'm still very much the jury is out kind of thing. I feel like this is way more straightforward. Talking about Roy in terms of how good he is, he is kind of what I thought he was going to be, just being very like glass cannon sort of thing. And I don't think my opinion has changed too terribly much. I mean, unlike talking about Stern, where it's like, well, his DPS doesn't feel quite there. Here, it feels very much like his DPS is there, but he is going to die potentially really quickly. So today we've set him up being with a couple other mages and a mage tank. And we're going up against the Dark Element because the Dark Element is really good and this is not fair even a little bit. I also want to say, with it not being fair, that we have Sephiroth here sporting pretty much great equipment and just a overall great setup. Probably could be a little more magic resistance, but you know what, really not terrible even in the least. As for Majin Vina, you can see that she is 140 as well. Her faith is a little bit lowered. I think that's maybe because of something I did recently. So, I don't know, balancing act, I guess. And last but not least, Little Leela, who is not super run right now in comparison in a lot of Dark Elemental teams seem to be running, but she's still pretty good, so we're going to be throwing her into this as well. She also has, I think, a few TMR runes on. Nope, never mind. I'm just talking right out me arse. And on the other side, we are going to be focusing on fire magic. So I decided to just go in with all fire mage characters to essentially try and make it just a little bit more balanced. But let's get one thing straight. Just in terms of VCs alone, Dark has the better and more maxed out VCs, and there isn't really anything fair about it. That's just the way it's going to be. But, you know, we're going to keep that in mind for when we are running this today. So that, you know, if people are like, well, your Dark team was stronger. I mean, I acknowledged it, sort of thing. And there really isn't too terribly much done about it. We're starting a little bit on the other ends of the map. Would have been kind of cool to actually put the fire team. And I do want to say that I do think that this team could excel even more if you have the Final Fantasy VI Terra card, which did have Human Killer on it for magic-based attacks. That would be generally stronger here. Unfortunately, we don't have that, so not really gonna have to say whatever, I guess. All right, so here we have the buff. This gives a dispel ignore to fatal damage, which is pretty good. This one is 40 TP one. This is the one that boosts his damage output for the cost of extra TP. Here we have his status effect resistance, and last but not least, we have his TMR skill. So we're gonna run that first. We're going to send our Glassy over to join him. We're going to be sending Leela to kind of set over there, so we'll just go that. And we're just going to be running a few buffs for a minute. We'll also put Sephiroth's barrier up to give him some E. Gonna have a few enemies running in here. Oh no, guys, don't hit him. You'll just make him angry. All right, and now we're going to be running that buff in a second, but one of the things we do want to first is just test some of the damage capabilities. So just dealing limit burst here, you can see about 4,000, about 6,000, about 6,000, all a pretty good amount of damage. Now, of course, we could be pushing more out if we were having that vision card. I think having the human killer on it is pretty considerably strong. Just looking here, you can even self KO him if he really wanted. But you can get the idea that Roy, really unlike other characters, comes out of the box pretty good. And this is basically just using vision cards that are readily acceptable, with the one exception of the Pizarro card, which, hey, guess what? I actually recommended recently, so good for me. All right, pushing out that, we'll also just send over here. But before we do that, let's just compare it for DPS, because as you remember, we saw kind of how much damage Roy was doing. And if we just look, we can get an idea for what Glassy is doing. And again, Roy is a much higher magic stat, but that does speak to how good his stats are. Running that. And now we're going to test some DPS against him, and you can get an idea for the problem that I can see having, or anybody who is really trying to run Roy, is that you're always going to need some kind of a tank. And Mont with his 140 is a very, very, very strong tank. Here's just here. You can see like all of our attacks are dealing pretty high damage, if not just killing him, and that is really good. I mean, for the dark element. So yeah, just throwing that. Let's just jump right over here quickly. Bring our characters a little closer together. Again, for comparison, just so we can see how much damage we are doing. A pretty fair estimation, I would say. Run a little bit of hate generation up. And now, of course, Sephiroth. So here you can see that Roy is actually getting a good amount of defense off of this. And part of this is coming from the ability that we have cast on him, which is reduce damage taken 35% for 3 turns. So this is helping him survive. He is taking a Sephiroth style limit burst there, and that barrier is effectively keeping him alive, especially against these physical attacks. Sephiroth maybe could be dealing a bit more damage, could preemptive kind of thing on him, but he does have a good amount. But you can see again, Sephiroth is capable of dealing a high amount of damage. Throw that on there. Pass the turn. And wait a second. All right, now here we are actually using the TP skill, so we can get an idea. Here, I mean, you can see that the damage pushed out can be really high. Now, he is spending TP to deal this extra damage, but it's worth it in most cases. He's killing Majin Vina now off of a single hit. It's almost getting through Little Leela in a single hit, and it's dealing half of Sephiroth's HP, even with his barrier and everything. Again, just taking a look at the kinds of damage that we can be doing here. Even on AoE. Debuffing the fire resistance. And a good amount of range on all of his attacks too. Keep in mind that he does have a couple of interesting skills. If he does kill a unit based on his range one, which, not that one, where was it? This one here. If, for instance, he was killing either of these two units with this ability, he would get CT restore up to 200, potentially even giving him a secondary turn, which is quite powerful. And he does have magic attack resistance penetration that he can get from his AoE attack, which does give him quite a bit of more getting through defense. But you can see here that I think that overall, Roy is pretty straightforward as to what he is going to be doing pretty good. Here we get a good example of this. So let's try using this first. Hit that for a second so we can get a cool looking attack. So there we are kind of getting the maximum benefit from it. And you can see it boosts his CT, but not as much as maybe we would want. So yeah, I think that Roy is really quite a good DPS. He's very capable of pushing out a lot of damage. And if we just skip ahead a little bit here, good job there. Make him suffer for it. And we'll let Sephiroth just smash. We also don't get to see that ability. You can see that he still has a high amount of TP and AP for running a couple of abilities. The thing is like he feels a little bit more all or nothing. Like if he doesn't get a kill on an opponent, it could be very dangerous. Like he does potentially just run the risk of getting killed the following turn, especially against really strong teams such as Darkness. But let's just let him run havoc for a bit here. He's just gonna have some fun, kill some enemies. Our other characters are hopefully gonna hang a little bit back and let him take the main stage, but we'll see. I think Roy is just very, very straightforward. He is a really good DPS and he has some good skills that credit him quite well. But in terms of PvP, I do feel a little bit like he'll probably fall a little short in some instances. He is a character that does need a tank, and he does really need the opportunity to kill opponents before they kill him. Because as soon as he gets targeted, the chances of him dying very quickly are really, really strong, especially because Dark doesn't offer a really easy solution, and neither does Wind. You're going to be up against both physical and magical, and you're going to be up against very competent physical and magical. He is a great character, and I like and recommend Roy quite heavily, especially for people who are looking for fire elemental characters, and maybe to also make a fire elemental mage team as opposed to going the physical evasion route. Roy gives a lot to those teams to potentially be very, very, good kind of thing. It's just the thing that if you are looking to do this character, you have to acknowledge his weaknesses, and I feel they are quite evident. I don't think that his AI, from what I've seen, is ever really going to heal or offer too terribly much support, but still a powerful character and one that is a credit to the fire element. So thanks so much for watching. Take care and see ya next time.